Hello and welcome to Find Your Freedom, a podcast dedicated to helping you truly find freedom in all aspects of life. Join your hosts and their expert guests as they share practical tips and strategies for finding more freedom in your life. It's time to take control of your life and create the future you want. Let's find your freedom. Here are your hosts, Lenny the Boss and Omid Rad Investor.
Boom, boom, boom. We are back with another episode of Find Your Freedom. And today is going to be a great one. But before we get into it, just like always, if you're looking for a mortgage, if that's for your personal home, if that's for your vacation home, if that's for even a rental property, right? Short-term rentals, long-term rentals, guess what? Wealth Builders Mortgage Group is the company you want to use. That's who Omid used. That's who I use all the time. Believe me, you go to them and they will 100% straighten you out. They will find out every way that they can. My back was against the wall on one property and I thought it wasn't going to come through. And guess what? They just fought tooth and nail. They even emailed at the time I was working, they emailed my HR individual to get some data that they needed to close the property. And that's the lengths that they go. So remember, Wealth Builders Mortgage Group, go to them and get your mortgage. All right. So today episode is going to be a good one because we are doing something different. We are bringing on someone special as a host, right? She's very special to us. And I don't want to give too much of her background right now because we're going to jump right into it. And we're going to talk to her today. We're going to find out all the inner workings of how she operates her life and her business and the value that she's going to bring to the platform. So no further ado, we're going to bring on Parker. Parker, how are you feeling today?
Hey guys, feeling great. It's hard not to feel great with the two of you. Good company.
Oh man, Parker, we're so happy that you could come on and move forward. We would have you on and some of the fantastic things that we got set up for the audience and the listeners because that's what it's all about. So, I guess Parker, we're gonna start off our little corny way by saying, hey, give us a little background on yourself, Parker, if you can.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm really excited to be a part of this group. Hopefully, I will bring some great information and stories and experience to share with everybody. So I started investing in short-term rentals back in 2018. After I had been lending on short-term rentals for a couple of years, I'd gotten into that, and then we just saw the proof in the pudding. Well, I did anyway. My husband just had to trust me. But the cool thing was like I started financing these cabins in the Smokies, and then clients would come back to me for another one and another one, and I was like, "Huh, all right. If they're getting more than one of these, something's going on." And that coupled with seeing the proof, so I look at their bank statements for the next ones, and I saw these like Airbnb deposits, Airbnb, and I was like, all right, this is real. So that 2018 is when we bought actually we ended up getting 3 that year. So I was gonna say our first one, but we actually got 3 in 2018 because they're so addicting. And so that's how I started that part of my journey. And in the meantime, the lending, it was really exciting to be able to come up with creative solutions and figure out hard scenarios for investors because let's face it, investors in many cases, especially when you really get into it, start having more and more complicated situations.
Well,
So
Parker, you helped me out tremendously, right? It was a property. It was I was asking price was like $799 or something like that, and I know that there were some issues with the underwriting, and I'm gonna be honest. I was stressing over here, like, oh my God, closing is like next week. No one's telling me everything's okay. And I spoke to you, I spoke to your team, and the one thing that I always remember is you guys let me know, Lenny, it's gonna be all right. We're gonna work this out. And it was some type of calm and some type of relief that came on board. And at that time it was you just say, hey, let's connected the dots, and closing went beautiful. So
awesome. Yes, that was definitely a fun one.
So yeah, and I would say like I want to echo that. I think the one thing you bring that's maybe different than other lenders is I think there's this level of reassurance that you feel as you're going through the process because I don't know if there's ever like a stress-free lending process. I think there's always going to be some component, whether that's like an educational piece where maybe as a consumer and you're going through the process, you're learning, oh, you need this information because of what? And I think it's very common for somebody who's going through the loan process to get defensive or to get upset. And I think you're able to kind of navigate those conversations, educate, but do it in a very simple way where it allows, I guess, like the common person to Lenny's point, just feel at ease. So um, I guess Parker, I think we're bringing you on, and I think listeners probably want to get to know you more a little bit. So, like, tell us a little bit about like what motivates you, like like what I guess you're in the kind of lending space, and you're also in the short term rental space or investing space, but like why continue to do it? I think you have a level of success, but why do you continue to do it, and like what motivates you to want to do this?
It's probably a question I ask myself every day. What am I doing? Why am I still doing this? Some days more than others. Uh, so yeah, it's the really cool thing is, and this goes into the find your freedom. So I feel like with our rentals, we've got 11 active short-term rentals. We have one that's a project, so that's number 12. Another story for another day. But we've got the 11 active short-term rentals, and at this point, they're generating enough income that I do have I could walk away from lending easily and live. We don't have extravagant lifestyle. We'd still be comfortable. We could probably travel and enjoy life more. Man, this is sounding good. But but there's something about the lending side that just draws me to it. I really
Mm,
enjoy being able to work through some of those situations and help people get into the short-term rental game that I'm in, because I just know how impactful it's been for my family. And I think that's what drives me more than anything to continue doing both.
awesome.
Someday I may walk away from lending, or at least maybe I'll get a little more of a team under me so I can step out of it a little bit more. But yeah, so that's why we do it. That's why I do it.
Parker, helping people, I that's one of your many gifts, probably your top one. And I think that's probably why it's so satisfying, that I see from my view when someone come to you and, their makeup, their DNA is a mess, right? And your eyes go, "Oh my God, this person really need my help." And you actually work, tooth and nail. I know texting you a few times, you're like, "Hey Lenny, sorry, we can't meet. I have to close this deal working on something special." And, I always hear a level of excitement when you sit back and you talk about how, someone came to you and and you were able to, help them, get that loan. So that's pretty cool. Now you mentioned you're married, right? And I guess talk about that a little bit, Parker, if you can, because to my understanding, your husband is in the business, right?
Yeah.
You
Yep.
know, and a lot of couples out there, they can't get the buy-in from their spouse or their significant other. And what I guess what how did you guys come together? Because I don't think that rental properties was his his background, right?
No, he's an engineer.
Engineer. Look at that
Yeah.
there.
Yeah. So how did we meet, or how did we come together doing the
Yeah,
investing
like,
together?
yeah, how did you bring them on board? Like, how did that work out?
So if anybody knows me, I kind of do what I want to do when I want to do it.
Okay.
Just how I am. I mean,
Find your
um,
freedom.
yeah, find your freedom. Look, I'm an only child of divorced parents, and they were preoccupied with whatever else. So I just learned to do me, right? Just
Okay.
take care of myself, became independent.
Mhm.
So, I think my husband, though, appreciates that about me. At least I hope he does. So we had been, gosh, this was 2018. So we'd been together about 15 years already. So he knew me and I'd been successful in careers and throughout the years. And so I think overall he trusted me, trusted I knew what I was doing. Of course, I showed him the numbers. I showed him what was possible. And after the first one, I think a lot of people go into that first one saying, well, all right, let's see. Let's
Yeah.
try it out. Let's see what happens. Let's see how this really goes. And after our first one, it just took off so quickly. We had bookings right off the bat. The revenue was coming in, and
Mhm.
so at that point, I think he had a better level of trust in this process. And then so we closed on that in January of 18, and then by that fall, we had purchased 2 additional cabins at that point. So, and then from there on, once you get a few under your belt and
Mhm.
the other spouse can really see the returns possible, then you know, then they get hooked too. Hopefully, my husband
Mm.
got just as hooked as I did. So, but it's funny because when I would buy, because I was also kind of taking the lead in finding the properties, and
Okay.
then he would start to do. It's kind of like when you buy a dog without the other one's buy-in completely, and then it's like, "Oh, that's your dog, you take care of it," right? Kinda that way with some of these properties. So I learned that I was like, "All right, are you sure you wanna buy this property?" And, I made sure to get his buy-in so that if anything went wrong with that property, it wasn't my property.
Ah, yeah,
I love that.
that's smart.
I think
Yeah.
I see that being very common nowadays is, I meet a lot of women investors and they're, I would just say like they're independent thinkers and they want to kind of take the first step. So they're doing the proof of concept, they're doing the research, um, and then they get the spouse kind of bought in after the proof of concept is completed. So just like for listeners, let's say there's women in that are listeners that are they're wanting to kind of take that first step. Once you do the proof of concept, at what point then do you maybe distribute responsibilities and or like how does that conversation happen and then then how do you eventually like grow the business together?
So I think that process that's a good question. That process took a little more time. That didn't come as naturally. So as much of an independent thinker I am, I can also sometimes tend to be a control freak.
Uh-oh.
Surprise.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Surprise. Um, and so when we first started investing, he was still an engineer. He was working at Denso as an electronic engineer. And so, he had his 8 to 5. And here's the thing, my husband and I are built differently. And we both know that and appreciate about that each other. I can work 24/7. He has a cutoff time. He's like, I'm done. My brain is fried. Um, so initially, even navigating his mortgages were picking up. I handled the management for the first couple years. Um, Set it up on Airbnb, Verbo. Back then it was also a little easier because you didn't have the competition. So you really could set it and forget it. You could go take some pretty pictures with your iPhone and do great. Can't do that anymore. So as we started expanding, we picked up a couple down in Florida that needed renovations, and this was around COVID. So as this started growing, he finally quit at Denso. And so that's where we really started kind of intermingling the short term rental business side of it.
Mm.
And so the way we have done it for a while is I would handle most of the like purchasing supplies and um, decor. And although he's taken over some of the decor stuff too, we have similar tastes, and he knows mostly what I'm going to like or not like, so that's good. Um, I still handle a lot of the guest communication, unless they need a phone call, and then I let him call them. Uh, so basically now I kind of monitor like the pricing on Price Labs. I monitor our listings, and he deals with problems if there are any, and the cleaners and maintenance. So he handles all that side of it. Now, I do have to give him credit because this is something way out of his comfort zone, but recently he has started marketing our properties.
Well,
And
hold on, Parker. We're not going to browse over. You're saying he's under he took over the guest communications because I had the opportunity to speak to your husband, and his guest communication is like the best guest communications in the world. His guest communications is going up, having drinks with them, and having fun with them, talking to them, and whatever problems they need somehow, some way is no problem no more. He's leaving feeling great. They're leaving feeling great. So
this is true. Yeah, 100%. Like there was one night, so for those of you listeners who don't know, we do have 5 short-term rentals that are on the same property that we live on. We've got 18 acres, riverfront, spread out. And so I am in my house doing mortgages all the time, so I don't really interact with the guests um, other than just messaging. But oh yeah, he totally goes around. He'll meet the guests. One night he was out till 2 in the morning down at one of the cabins. I was like, "Did the bear eat him? Like, I know we have a bear. Is he okay?" Um, yeah, so oh god, he loves that. He loves it. Absolutely.
I mean,
Yes.
that's taking the guest experience to another level. So I don't think I can compete with that until I have an on-site location, but that's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
So he seems to be bought into the short-term rental space. But I guess just kind of like transitioning a little bit. So you have like the loan side. How did how have you been able to kind of stay at the forefront of loan products? How to qualify others that maybe aren't getting qualified by other lenders, because I think that's like your bread and butter. It just seems like you have a lot of repeat customers that eventually have a little bit harder time maybe qualifying. So
Mhm.
how, like, what sort of magic are you pulling, or like how are you able to do this versus, like, let's say, other lenders who are not?
I think that comes from a few different places. So, first of all, like just like you have a lawyer or a doctor, right? They might have gone through the same schooling, they have the same basic knowledge, but sometimes it may be a case of some are just smarter. That sounds terrible, but some are just smarter, maybe able to
there's nothing
critically think.
terrible about
I
that
don't
part.
know, like
Some are just smarter. I love it.
I don't know. Or able to think or care to figure something out. Like I'm sure there are some loan originators out there who are perfectly happy with their production. They're making good money. They're not stressed out, and they don't want to figure out the hard situations. So some of it may be not knowing how or knowing what you can do, and others may just not want to, if that makes sense. So I also think what keeps me sharp though is my clients too.
Mm.
Um, because the more challenging situations I get, it's like I don't like to lose. So whenever I get a challenging situation, I want to figure it out, especially if it makes sense, Like just because the situation doesn't meet guidelines, if it makes sense, I'm like, surely there's a way to do this. Like surely there's something we can figure out. So I think it's a matter of um, picking up on little details in loans. So here's an example. I just found out, I didn't even know, I don't know how I didn't know this.
Oh
We
man.
have a product, it's a non QM product, but right now it has better rates than our conventional anyway. But I saw an underwriter had put income in for a property that hadn't been rented, hadn't been on tax returns yet. And I was like, hmm, is that a mistake? I wasn't going to say anything because I didn't know if they caught it or not. Like I was like, oh, hey, it makes my file work. We'll just go with that. But then something else came up on the file, so I went ahead and asked because a lot of times sometimes you just want to not say anything to get things through. But so file, I figured out that. So I asked the underwriter, I was like, well, how did you use rental income on this property that they just bought a couple months ago? And apparently, this particular product allows us to use even short-term rental income before it's on a tax return. And so this has opened up so many doors for me recently for some other loans. And so sometimes it's just like paying attention to the little pieces and picking up and listening. And I think also being an investor and understanding the market helps tremendously as well, because I also feel confident when I push the limits on these, because I know what these properties are capable of producing. And maybe some loan originators hold back because they're uncertain if these properties are really going to do well or not. So yeah, so I think that those may be some of the factors there.
That's cool. That's cool, Parker. So let me ask a question, because one of the things we want to start doing is helping with more woman empowerment, right? We want to release the inner badass, right? I think that's what you meant, the inner badass in women. So you're currently in a male dominant, real estate investing, real estate investing, and I'm I guess it's a little male dominant in loans as well, probably you'll say. You know, I guess, like, you're tough. And what are the things that makes you tough, that you can help some other the women out there that really will love to start their investment journey, and or start their road to finding their freedom in their dreams?
Definitely. Yeah. I think, I think along over the years, just in life in general, kind of falling down and getting back up,
Mm,
um, has made me resilient. I feel like I'm pretty resilient.
mm.
I'm not scared to make mistakes. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't want to make mistakes, but I have confidence that, hey, even if I make a mistake here, I can recover from it by doing XYZ. Uh, Also, as a woman, I've got a pretty strong work ethic. And not saying men don't, just saying me personally. Um, so yeah, I think that work ethic and just knowing, hey, if by chance, I'm going to try to do this the right way. I'm going to try to do this a smart way, pay attention and make good decisions. But hey, worst case scenario, right? If I slip up and make a mistake here, what's my backup plan? So, I always just try to have backup plans, or um, know that I can go in a different direction if things don't turn out quite like I thought they would. So that's part of it. And then surrounding yourself with these communities. So I wasn't able, really, when mortgage was insane for 3 years. So we were doing the short-term rentals, but it was hard to surround myself with the community because I was just so busy doing mortgages. There wasn't room for anything else. And so something that I've discovered since mortgages have settled down is uh, these amazing communities out there where you can surround yourself with others who are like-minded, doing the same thing. They're super smart. They have really cool businesses they've built around short-term rentals. So, I think that's something else that should help women going into this, is that they're not alone. They've got awesome resources. You guys are amazing. They've just got awesome resources to tap into.
Awesome.
So,
Yeah.
kind of getting into that a little bit, I think sometimes there's limiting beliefs around what is out there and what people are capable of investing in. What are like some themes, or even like, um, I guess, like the mindset of those that are like trying to, whether they're building wealth for themselves, or they're trying to access resources that maybe they didn't think were available. Like, what are, I guess, investors doing, or what are some themes you see across investors who are really successful, that you come across, that you can maybe like takeaways they could share with like potential future investors?
Yeah, absolutely. I see, and I'm sure you've all seen this on Facebook and in Facebook groups. You'll see Negative Nancy, right?
Oh yeah,
Um,
we all know Negative Nancy.
we all know Negative Nancy. That's Karen's cousin. Uh,
Karen's cousin, nice. Yeah. Yeah. Negative Nancy and Karen are cousins. I love
right.
it. All right.
And so, sometimes there are people that gravitate towards that. And for whatever reason, maybe they gravitate towards the drama and negativity. And they're like, well, I can't do this because I heard this. I can't do this because I heard this. Right. So that's what I see in terms of limiting beliefs. Or sometimes people come to me that have been, it's interesting. Sometimes they'll tell me what they do or don't qualify for. And I'm like, well, hold on. Let's just take a look and see what we got here. And then maybe you're right, but let's look at it. And so many times they're like, wow, how can I qualify for that now? Um, so those are some of the limiting beliefs I see. Now, in terms of successful investors, sometimes they make me nervous, but they just go. They just, figure out ways to find money. They're selling this property, 1031ing into two, they've tapped into their life insurance, or they've started a partnership with somebody else. I mean, when they focus and they want to do this, I've just seen them explode. I've seen them sell businesses,
Mm.
to get more rentals. Take Patrick Switek, for example. He sold his rental to buy his management company, and that's just exploded now. So, same thing with almost being a good loan originator. You've got to, there's always a way. You just got to navigate the path to figure it out.
Gotcha. So you mentioned earlier a couple keywords that I wrote down here that I wanted to mention. You mentioned scared. You mentioned confidence. You mentioned work ethic, and you mentioned surround yourself around community. You know, those are all the ingredients of what success looks like, right? You know, but I kind of want to dial it back, like, because I know you mentioned, you didn't have community, your work ethic always was there, but was there ever a time, Parker, where, as a woman, didn't feel as confident or was very scared? And if it was, like, walk us through that, and how did you, get to where you are with being scared or lack of confidence?
Good question. I think some of that came with age. So I grew up in the 80s
Mm.
and 90s, and I think most people are aware that was a time when, well, maybe even before, but I think more than ever, the models looked a certain way, and
Mhm.
looks were very important. The girls in the videos looked a certain way. Now it's really great to see all sorts of people out there, but I feel like, and this sounds really weird, not that I think I was ever ugly or anything, but I felt like I had to almost appear a certain way to be successful.
Really?
Um, so I was in timeshare marketing for the first 10 years of my working career. And, and I would see some girls that looked a certain way. Now, I don't know if maybe they just did well in sales because they were good salespeople, but others that would go up, and so, and I could have totally been making it up in my head, right?
Mhm.
But it was this insecurity I had for
Mm.
a while, and to this day, I'm kind of mad at myself for ever having that. Um, but yeah, so as a woman, that was an insecurity for me,
Ah.
was how I came across and how I looked, which is hard to say out loud actually right now, um, in today's society. But I'm so glad, for my daughter's sake, I have an 18-year-old daughter, that
Mhm.
this conversation is more of an open conversation now, and it's not nearly as pivotal as it was back then. So yeah, so but I just, e- even back then, I just kept going. I did my best. I was always driven to be the best at whatever I did.
Okay.
And that's where I've been propelled to here. It's like, if I'm going to work, and I've always oddly been in commission jobs. Like, I didn't ever think I would end up that way. I didn't plan that. It just kind of happened.
Mm.
And I've thought about that. And so I'm like, well, if I'm going to work 8 hours a day, now it's like 12, but if I'm going to work these hours, I want to do something. I want to make some money here. I don't want to be
Yeah.
working for a set wage. So I think that's some of the driving factor. I don't know.
Gotcha.
Did that answer your question?
Oh yeah, absolutely. You wanted a piece of that pie, revenue sharing, that bonus, right? So
Yes.
that's secretly having a entrepreneurial spirit without you kind of knowing at that point in time that you had one. I think the maturity that you speak on, just growing up a little bit, seeing life, building that confidence and seeing what you want clearer is there. So yeah, man, that nailed it.
Yes, yes. And I think when you say, I think the confidence came from success. So the more
Ah.
successful I was, the more confident I become.
Mm.
Yeah.
I think, I mean, I just in general, like I think appearance is always something that I've always questioned. Like, what is the right look, and what is the most appealing, and what has mass appeal, and any sort of sales or marketing that matters. I mean, and I think that there's, when people who say that it doesn't. I mean, I feel like it's part of branding, and so it's a tricky
Right.
thing to kind of navigate, especially I imagine as a woman, because there's so many women that are attractive in a sales or marketing type of environment. Um, Even for myself, when I started like doing the Find Your Freedom, I used to have a big beard. So I used to have a big
Really?
beard, and then I trimmed it down to kind of look younger, like it just like okay, kind of I have a little bit more mass appeal, but I think part of that was also because when I worked the corporate job, I wanted the clean cut look. So I had the clean cut look for like
Mhm.
I'm gonna say I don't know 15 years. And my way of rebelling was growing a beard. It was like, okay, I'm like doing the anti-corporate thing, and I'm like trying to be the bad boy in the corporate job, because I was always like the company man for so many years, and I wanted to move up, and I did whatever it took, and that was I'm the clean cut baby face assassin,
Oh.
but when I do shave, it's like I look like I'm like 16 years old, so. I'm like, okay, I've maintained the beard for a while, so it's I think it's interesting how even like how you brand yourself over time kind of evolves and changes, and this is kind of my compromise now. It's kind of like an in between, like kind of clean, but not like,
It works
but
for you.
yeah, but not super clean cut. So it works, yeah, something in between. But
Keeping your maturity a little bit,
yeah, there
right?
you go.
Right.
Yeah.
Hey, and it's better than a face tattoo.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Right. Right. Yeah. Totally. Yeah. For
there you
sure.
go. You could have got a face tattoo of me.
Could have got a face
I know.
tattoo. You could have really rebelled.
Yeah. I know.
Hey,
That's
but some
fun.
people look really good. Some people can pull that off. Some people
Yeah.
Yeah.
look really good with that. I'm just saying.
Oh,
Yeah.
for
Yeah,
sure.
like
Oh,
who?
Like who? Actually voting the other day, I saw a guy in there, and he didn't have hair, but he had like
Okay.
tattoo. He
Okay.
actually looked. It worked for him. He had the
Okay.
biker jacket on and everything.
Okay.
I
yeah.
couldn't tell who he was voting for, but I was like, man, that could go either way. I was like, I don't know. I mean, but yeah, but he pulled it off. He was a nice looking
Okay.
guy and had
Okay.
nice tattoos. I was like, all right.
All right. All right. I guess some
So,
people can.
Yeah.
so I guess Parker, to kind of conclude this, like, if there just like some parting advice that you would give for anybody who wants to kind of get started, um, is hesitant, what sort of advice would you give them?
One of the things that I really want to tell people out there, because so when I got started back in 2018, short-term rentals in general, like Airbnb and Vrbo, this whole community was still fairly new and up and coming, right? We didn't have all these spreadsheets and documents and like designers and like uh, cash on cash and all these calculations, right? It was just like, hey, here's what you can do. Here's a cash flow you can make. Sound good? So sometimes I feel like there's almost too many metrics and tools out there, and it intimidates a lot of people coming in. They're like, oh, but I have to have my cash on cash at this level, and my ROI has to hit this. And I think sometimes people just get too lost in the weeds. I mean, don't get me wrong. Sure, yes, do your research, see what the property is going to make you. Guess what? If you're not investing your money elsewhere anyway, like the stock market, cash and cash means nothing. Cash
Mm.
and cash is like, where's your money going to perform the best? And if it's just sitting in a savings account anyway, you need to buy a short-term rental, and it doesn't matter what your cash on cash is. Um, so, so that's advice I would say is don't get too sucked into the weeds. Run your metrics, do your due diligence. Just know it's never a perfect process, but have a little confidence in yourself and your gut. Do a little research in the area. I used to run my numbers back then. I'm like, okay, I know this area. What would I pay per night to stay here? And, where do I think the tolerance level is for the people that would be staying? I mean, this was all like we didn't have price labs back then, right?
Wow.
So it's kind of trial and error, and it worked. I do better now using price labs, but it still worked even back then
Mhm.
with Parker math. So that's what I tell people. It's non-exact science. Do the Parker math or the Lenny math or the Omid math, and have a little confidence. Trust your gut. Yeah.
There you go. Well, Parker, we just want to say once again, thank you and welcome to the show. Right? We're grateful to have you on board, so we can sit here and continue our mission with empowering, the individuals out there, and for the audience, it's a lot to come. We're going to be focusing on building a community that's going to provide you with all your tools that you need to be successful. That's one of our missions. And in addition to that, we're going to do some Parker updates just to keep you updated with the market. Everybody don't know what the rates are, and people want to know, what are those areas they should be investing in, and we're going to put all those things together so you can have a place to come to, so you can sit here and get what you need to move forward. Our goal is to get you out of your seat and moving forward, joining us with ensuring that you're able to take care of your family, take care of yourself, and add some fun things. So, with that being said, we want to say thank you to everyone that's listening. We want to thank all the new listeners. And once again, Parker, we're grateful to have you on board, and 100 plus more shows to go.
I love
Talk
it.
to everybody soon.
Should we do a boom session?
We can. Hey, man, I'm
Yeah.
always down with the boom. So,
Yeah, let's do a
all
boom
right,
session.
listen,
Yeah.
It's always great to do this. So, listeners, this is your opportunity to turn down your speakers, because we're going to get loud. All right. So, on the count of 3, we're going to say boom. All right. 1, 2, 3. Boom. All right.
Thanks for listening to Find Your Freedom. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. While you're at it, please help us spread the word by leaving a rating and review and sharing the podcast with friends, family, and colleagues. Until next time, get out there and find your freedom.